Hello, everyone. We're very happy to welcome you on this beautiful morning at our partnered webinar. That is part of our Clutter-Free series dedicated to sharing industry best practices and technology insights within the Xero community. Let me do a quick sound check with our team. Helmut?
Yes, hello, everyone.
Yeah, hello, everyone. And Fraser?
Hi, Helmut. Hi, Maria.
Oh, great. So, so technology working, we're good to go. So, please note that the session is being recorded and it will be available for download within a couple of days. As we speak, we would like to encourage you to ask questions anytime. Please don't hesitate to interrupt the presenter, and you can do that by posting your questions in the Q&A box in the Zoom menu. We will have a dedicated Q&A session at the following our main part, so the more questions you have, the better. So let me introduce our today's presenters. My name is Maria Kozlova. I'm head of marketing at ApprovalMax, and I'm very happy to be your host today. We also have Helmut Heppner with us. Helmut is Director of Operations at ApprovalMax, and he's helping us today with the Q&A session. Helmut, hello again.
Yes, hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar.
And our guest speaker today is Fraser Barry. Hello, Fraser.
Hi, Maria. Hi, everyone.
We're so excited to have Fraser with us today and co-hosting this webinar and sharing his success story of a digital transformation and the best practices. So Fraser's current role is Manager Outsourced Finance Services at Lucent Advisory, and Lucent Advisory belongs to the new generation of tech-smart, cloud-savvy business advisors and provides a set of solutions combining finance and HR, and those including outsourced and virtual ones. Let's take a look at our agenda. We will have three parts. Firstly, we will take a closer look at data and bill automation as outlined by Xero's recent cash flow app advisory playbook, and providing more focus in terms of ensuring data quality and process optimization through a Xero-based data automation app stack. Secondly, and as the main part, we will have Fraser walk us through the Lucent Advisory's success story of going fully digital and streamlining client invoice processing with the help of a bill automation app stack. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we will have a dedicated Q&A session for you with the ability to ask direct questions to our presenters. So let's take a closer look at data and bill automation. In doing so, we will be referencing Xero Cash Flow App Advisory Playbook, and this is the latest content in Xero's series of app advisory playbooks. So specifically, the Cash Flow App Advisory Playbook looks at provides recommendations of how to use Xero and the Xero integrated apps to address the cash flow management challenges, how to proceed with cash flow advisory, and how to make the right software selection choices for your clients. It is available on Xero website and on our website as well. So moving on, let's take a quick look at the statistics of invoice and bill processing. And according to the recent data that we have from Xero and a couple of other resources, here's what we see. We see that an average small business is owned around £25,000 in late payments on any given day. And around 75% of small business owners can be sure that they will be able to pay their own bills on time due to unpaid invoices. And currently, only 32% of small businesses are using tech solutions to ensure that they're paid on time. So figures can vary from region to region, but the overall picture is pretty much the same. With that in mind, what are the challenges of invoice processing? And let's take a look at that on our next slide. So the key challenges are around the following ones. The biggest one is time waste, and that is related to lots of manual intervention and paper clutter. So with paper filing and with a lot of activities that you need to perform in order to secure data quality. So that's a time killer. Then the second and the third one are around pretty much money waste, and these are missed or delayed supplier payments that often result in penalties, or unauthorized invoice payments, duplicate invoice payments, or even potentially fraud. Thirdly, we have the data issue quality, and that is related to the inability by the accounting team to timely get the business background of the transactions and of the expenses, and that's the often case that the coding is done as general expenses. There is no ability to segment the expenses, and there's ultimately very bad visibility into what has been happening. And finally, that's the compliance issues, more of a priority for not-for-profit organization, governments, and others who are facing tighter audits. So the native question is, what is the solution? And the answer to that is to embrace the right technology, with the ultimate goal of eradicating manual intervention in paper-based processes. You can do two things. One is that you can do data digitization, and that is digital data capture and cloud data storage. And as a more advanced approach, you can do data automation, which is digital data capture and cloud data storage. That coupled with workflow-driven data validation and decision control. So to put it simple, with the workflow data validation, what you do is that you ensure that accounting and finance documents and all the accounting data is complete, verified by both business and accounting teams, and is audit ready. Once again, let me encourage you to ask questions. Please use the Zoom menu to do so, and we will be picking up your questions either as we speak or at the Q&A session. So, moving on, a way to do that, a way to achieve data automation, is to employ a data automation app stack. And a typical data automation app stack consists of the following components. Firstly, and importantly, you have a cloud accounting platform, and this is Xero in our case, with the key functionality of centralized document management and accounting. You also have digital data capture solutions, and you can have OCR tools like Receipt Bank, Data Molino, Auto Entry, or you can have data conversion tools like HubDoc. So whatever works best for your case and for your clients. And as an important component, you also have purchase order automation and bill automation solutions that are built around approval workflow automation, which helps you ensure that, as I mentioned earlier, that both the business team, both the business managers and the accounting team timely review and approve all finance documents and provide the business background to the expenses. And that is not happening via paper. That is not happening via emails and email transactions. That is fully automated. And basically, an approval workflow takes care of this instead of someone spending their precious hours on chasing approvers, figuring out which notifications need to be sent out and things like that. So again, if there is any questions, happy to answer them. Now moving on to our next part, multiple innovative companies are already using Xero-connected data automation apps, And this is time for me to hand it over to Fraser. And for a main part, so Fraser, could you please give us a quick overview of Lucent Advisory's background and services, and what is the uniqueness of your offering and your approach?
Sure, I'll give it a try, Maria. Thanks, and I couldn't agree more with everything you've just said there. It was fantastic and really interesting. So Lucent Advisory, it was created in 2005, as the slides say there, by Rachel Turner. She's the mastermind behind Lucent. I'm one of the managers there, and we're previously an accountant and moved into a management role, and part of my role is keeping abreast of advances and updates in technology, and solutions such as ApprovalMax. So, as it says there, Lucent, we offer a combined finance and HR solution, which I think is quite unique, and is why I love working there. I always feel that Lucent Advisory is at the forefront of the market, and it's an exciting place to work. So by offering a combined finance and HR solution, our focus is on maximizing clients' performance, improving clients' processes, and also delivering the data that our clients can trust in. Hopefully today we can show you that there are solutions out there that not only make our lives better, but also our clients' lives, and that's what the win-wins that we look for at Lucent. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the overview. So my next question to you would be around the state of the particular line of business that you're engaged in. So what services specifically were provided, and what systems were used to enable them?
No worries. So so we've got a few divisions at Lucent, which is the outsourced finance, HR and payroll, CFO and tax. But specifically today, I think we'll just go to the. Oh no, that's fine. So within our outsourced finance division, we offer bookkeeping services, and specifically what we'll be talking about today is within that division we process high volume of invoices for our clients. We manage cash flow for our clients. We manage payments for our clients. The reconciliation of statements, managing the integrity of the data, the whole process from start to finish, really. Before ApprovalMax was introduced to our processes, obviously, as Maria mentioned before, Xero was the instigator, and once we moved to Xero, become open to a lot of solutions that are on the market. One being the optical character recognition tool that we use and love, which is Receipt Bank. And yeah, a lot of high volume of invoices going to our clients before ApprovalMax. So.
Thank you. So the next question would be then, what were the key issues and challenges with how the systems and processes worked? And I guess that if you would like me, I can go over to the graphics right away.
I think just give me. I'll run through this quickly, and then I will show that graphic because it's a good one. But what was happening is the supplier invoices were getting stuck in clients' inboxes, and for anyone who's listening today and manages processing invoices for clients and making payments, this will probably sound quite familiar. But supplier invoices are getting stuck in our clients' inboxes and left on desks, and it's just a very inefficient way of getting all the information to us. We couldn't ever get invoices sent directly to us because we didn't have a formal approval process. So in order for us to act as an agent for our clients and make payments on their behalf, we obviously needed some sort of indication that the bills we're paying have filtered through some sort of resource internally and are therefore okay to pay. So and as a result, there's not only missed or duplicate or unauthorized payments, but obviously an inefficient and time-consuming process. So previously, before ApprovalMax, it was time-consuming, clients being frustrated, and when clients are frustrated, generally internal clients, internal staff are frustrated, and this wasn't a very nice process. So, but yeah, if you jump to the graphic, Maria, yeah, this is summarizes it quite nicely, I think. So we've got on the left there the supplier invoices sort of slowly making their way. I like the squiggly one because that's probably what it was more so like before. ApprovalMax, it needed to filter through internal resources of our clients. The green ones were sent on time, and the other ones were not sent on time, and then some we just would never receive. We'd then start our process thinking, as we always do, that we've received everything, push it through Receipt Bank, which is our optical character recognition software. It also acts as a digital storage base, which is a huge benefit for us and our clients. Then obviously filtering through to Xero and us being there, getting ready to make payments and help clients manage cash flow. But then, having those discussions around, hey, is this one okay to pay? Is this, should we be paying this? And clients say, hey, I don't know what that invoice is, or, I've never seen that before. And then us trying to make payments. And then, what would also happen is we'd also eventually sometimes get suppliers on the phone, why hasn't this been paid? And back to the start with, we never received it. So, a not very nice process, Maria.
Yeah, this looks daunting, really. Really, yeah, and taking a lot of time and effort. And sure. Then the question is, how did you identify the solution? So somehow you figured out the missing capabilities, right? And discovered they needed apps the functions that would be fit in, right?
Well, yeah, referring back to the creator and owner of Lucent Advisory, it was Rachel Turner. She, would always complain and be frustrated that the software that we used, our OCR technology, didn't have a formal approval process because she knew it was the missing link. And it was me who was out at I think it was a networking event or a lunch or something, and someone within my network mentioned ApprovalMax, and immediately, I knew Rachel would love it, and we had to look at it, and it was a no-brainer, and we've rolled it out across all of our clients. And as it alludes to here on the screen, it creates a single point for clients to log in and be able to look at all their bills before they go into Xero. So it's one point for approval, where before it was phone calls, emails, forwarding emails on and things like that. It now, ApprovalMax just automatically distributes those approvals to the right resources, and fits in perfectly with our current stack. So, seamlessly with Xero and Receipt Bank, which we're very fond of as well. So,
right, I believe we have a graphics. Do you want me to switch over?
But maybe we'll just go through the next slide and then to the graphic.
Yep.
Oh yeah, the graphics. Sorry. Yep.
Yep.
So this looks a bit nicer, doesn't it, Maria?
Yeah.
So I can explain what we're looking at here. So we've obviously got the supplier invoice at the beginning. They now come, since we've implemented ApprovalMax, they now come directly to Lucent. Before we couldn't have that because we needed it to somehow filter through our clients, but now we can manage all of the correspondence and get all of that data collection on behalf of our clients. And in addition, it's real time now, whereas historically, the client would email it to us when they got to their emails or forget to email it, or we chase it up. We can now have the suppliers emailing directly to Lucent, and we automate that process even one step further. And we just have our suppliers emailing directly into the data digitization step. So Receipt Bank has an email, so we have our suppliers emailing directly to that, where our accountants step in and review it from a tax and compliance perspective, and also a management accounting perspective, making sure that we're providing our clients with accurate reports. It then flows through into Xero, which is where ApprovalMax kicks in. You know, whether the approval steps is just one business owner or multiple resources within that business, we can set those approval rules up, you know, once at the beginning of the setup, and then it's a set and forget. And, you know, once these invoices start coming through, they filter through the client, they come back into Xero, and we've got, you know, all the information we need to make those payments for our clients and ensure that, you know, nothing's missing. And we don't have to be bothering our, you know, busy clients for, hey, have you got this invoice? Or we can see you've made this payment, yet we don't have the invoice. Or, you know, the supplier is chasing us and we can't go to them directly because it needs to go to you. So, yeah, a much nicer process to deal with.
Yeah, this looks a lot more agile. So in a nutshell, so going further to our next slide. So the results and the benefits, you already mentioned some of them, but the key ones, again, are around.
Sure. Yep. So I think I've gone through how it works now. Just then, you know, going through that graphic you have there, but I think the benefits is just reducing the administration in that whole process. So we're the ones who are the accountants and have access to Xero and are, you know, looking at what needs to be paid and what's in there and what's missing and reconciling statements. So it makes sense for us to be dealing directly with the suppliers rather than it needing to filter through our clients. That's obviously a huge benefit to our clients as well, knowing that they can let go of the reins in that they can trust that all bills and invoices can come directly to, you know, their trusted accountant, but nothing will go through into Xero until it's been approved by them. And by them having the one single place for all approvals, it's fantastic. And as you know, the other dot points say, for forecasting and accurate reports, it's so critical that this happens in a timely manner. And you know, we've all been there where, you know, you're doing month-end reporting and you close the month. You send your client their reports, and then the next day you get an invoice for, you know, $50,000, and you know you've missed that in the last month. So having it real time is not only improves everyone's processes, but it does help the forecasting for cash flow and also the accuracy of our clients' reporting, which is ever so critical for.
Right. So speaking about real time, since you mentioned it, I believe we have an example of a client of yours who has been able to achieve almost real time processing of invoices. Could you please walk us through the case?
Sure. This is a cool one. I really love telling people about this. So this was when I was an accountant here at Lucent Advisory, and I was working on this client who's in the construction industry. So he's a custom home builder, and I was processing, you know, on average per month around 500 to 1,000 bills, and we didn't have ApprovalMax at that time until, you know, I implemented it. But there was a time where we didn't have ApprovalMax, and therefore all the bills and invoices needed to go directly to his email, and he needed to forward it on. Being a project manager, business owner, a dad, and everything else, I would have, if I had to put a figure on it, guessed I would have been getting around 2/3 of the bills and invoices. So at the end of the month, when I needed to sit there and review the statements to what's in Xero, it was my, you know, one of my most hated jobs to have to do. To, you know, sit there and review statements against Xero and then manually, you know, email suppliers chasing invoices, and then send them back to the client to send back to me to ensure that, you know, they're okay to be paid. But what was really cool was, and this is where, you know, the clients are sometimes a little bit skeptical at the start, but once they start seeing it in action, they tend to turn around quite quickly and love it. But what happened is he walked into a bone timber store, which here is for just a store for construction materials and things like that. And he walked into the store. They've obviously got a cloud-based system, and they're, you know, quite on the forefront of technology. So he's walked in. He's got some materials. He's put it on his account. He walks out of the store. The invoice is then sent to Receipt Bank. We have auto publish on in Receipt Bank, so it's just going directly to materials, and we're comfortable with Receipt Bank's accuracy. So it was auto-published, so it's gone to Receipt Bank. No accountant's touched it. It's gone straight into ApprovalMax. And he's driving back to work, and on his phone app, he gets a notification asking him to approve that bill. So, I thought that was pretty cool when that happened. So,
yeah, really, yeah. Thank you very much for such a detailed walkthrough and for this wonderful, case. Yeah, that's that's very inspiring. So, moving on to the next question. ApprovalMax has different functions and capabilities. So my next question to you would be around what is the core functionality that you are using for clients, and maybe there is something as you see as an extension. So if you could comment on that.
Sure. I believe at Lucent, we manage a array of different clients and industries, and I believe that we probably use all of the functionality of ApprovalMax, and I'll go through that now, and Helmut can jump in and correct me if there's anything I'm missing and not using. But we obviously use and have already discussed the bill approvals, and as you can see there on the screen, that's what an approval workflow looks like. So the blue column pulling from Xero is the beginning, because it goes into Xero and it pulls from there. And then you can have sort of multiple approval resources in that process. And then it ends up back in at the last step, the blue, which is Xero, ready for payment. So that's the bill review, which we've already discussed. We also use it for sales review. So for any of our clients who we prepare their sales, but they want to be looking at it before it goes out to their customers or clients, we prepare their sales in Xero and we save them as awaiting approval. And then our clients get a notification in ApprovalMax to come in and approve their bills, approve their sales or reject them. And if they approve them, it'll get emailed directly to their customer. There's no other steps in that process. And if it's rejected, it comes back to Lucent with a note on what the issues were. We use the purchase order functions. So for clients who need to use purchase orders, they can log in, their staff can log in and process purchase orders, and then, they can go through an approval process as well if required. I think that's really powerful, because historically staff needed to be able to have access to Xero to do that, but now with ApprovalMax, they don't need to. So, and lastly, we use the budgeting functionality. So if for any of our clients who we do forecasting and budgeting for the upcoming financial year, we'll then import that budget into ApprovalMax. So throughout the year, whoever's approving the bills can actually, in real time have a grasp on how they're faring against the budget. Rather than retrospectively looking back at the month, they can actually look forward as the bills come in comparison to budgets. So, is there anything we're not using there, Helmut?
It sounds very compelling and very complete. Of course, there are a lot of details under the hood, but from the core functionality, I got the feel that you were really leveraging the major benefits and adopting the product very well in interaction with your clients.
Yeah, very, very much so. We like to think we are anyway.
Thank you. I believe we have a question from Adris. And just to finalize this, to wrap it up quickly to the benefits, I guess we have covered pretty much them all, unless Fraser, you would like to stop on anything and add detail.
And I think this slide summarizes what we've discussed. It really has, ApprovalMax really has changed, as I said at the beginning of our my part of this webinar, is that at Lucent Advisory, we're not only trying to make our lives easier, but also our clients' lives easier. So this is such a fantastic tool to facilitate that, in addition to the other software solutions that we're using. And then by having, accountability around the fact that we're making payments, but they've formally been approved by the client before we make them. It's budgeting ability, everything. And I guess another, I'm reading the slide as I talk, but the ease of adoption and the ease of use is, they're all big ticket items for us at Lucent. So.
Okay, so thank you very much, Fraser. I guess it's time for me to hand it over to you, Helmut, for the Q&A session. We have a couple of questions, so if you could take it up from here.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Fraser, for sharing your best practices and how you are using tools to be more efficient in your day-to-day work. We got a few questions, and the first question is a very good one. It's actually asking whether so ApprovalMax essentially requires also to use Receipt Bank as well as ApprovalMax itself. So in other words, there are two apps required to achieve the results. Let me put it in this slide. If you would go to the Xero website and download the App Advisory playbooks, you will read a best advice by Xero, which actually tells that each of the add-ons is delivering certain functionality for a very specific purpose, and it depends on the client needs of how the process should be built up, how the process with your clients should be set up, and which tools would be recommended to select in order to achieve the best results. In an essence, actually, the process which Fraser was explaining for automation of data and cash flow management is heavily focused on making sure that supplier invoices are captured in time, processed in time, so that the workflow is actually very streamlined. And yes, for this goal, you would need to have two specialized apps. One is very great in extracting all the data. Receipt Bank is one of those apps. There are other apps in the Xero ecosystem, and the ApprovalMax helps to eliminate media breaks and make sure that all the data until an invoice is authorized for payment flows fully digitally through the systems. But there are other functions like, for instance, reporting, cash flow forecast, where you may want also to look after other add-ons for forecasting and for reporting. Fujali was one which Fraser mentioned, but there are quite a few other out in the ecosystem. My recommendation would be go to the website, to the Xero website or to the ApprovalMax website, look up this cash management playbook and read the sections to get a good idea about recommended apps which you may want to use for clients. I hope this answers the question. Let me turn to the next one. So it's also a very interesting question. It's asking what's happening with the approval system if a line manager is on leave. So essentially how this would be managed by the system and passed on to the next person. ApprovalMax has certain functionality for these cases. So you can set delegates if a person goes on leave. You can actually define a delegate for yourself. If the person forgot about it, also the administrator can set delegates. And what's happening then is that every new approval request will be automatically reassigned to the delegate. And of course, that approval had been made by a delegate is also clearly stated in the audit logs. I hope this answers the question. So the next question, I believe, Fraser, it's a very good one. It's asking actually if you are using this workflow and this process for all of your clients, even one-man bands?
Sure. I think to answer that, it depends on the services you're providing and what the current processes are. But if it warrants it, then by all means, if you are, you can never look at a solution at a one-dimensional level. You need to look at all of the benefits, and it might seem like it's a bit overkill to implement something like this, but if the client is never getting bills to you on time and you're trying to manage the compliance for that client and manage payments and liaise with suppliers and everything like that, then having a formal approval process is required and necessary. If the client's managing their own payments and getting everything into Xero on time and there's no issues, then ApprovalMax isn't really required and relevant. So it just depends on what services you're providing and what the client's needs are, I think. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So the next question from Cherry, I hope it is okay, Cherry, that I will skip this question. I will answer this over email if you are okay. Then we got the next question from Shayla asking about ApprovalMax match to purchase order if they have been raised to the draft invoices from Xero. Does it do this by PO number, and what if the supplier has not included these in the invoice? Okay, let me answer this question. So we have actually an ability for a manual matching. Unfortunately, there's only one reference field within Xero, which can be exchanged between the data extraction tool, Xero, and ApprovalMax. And most of the data extraction tools are occupying this field with the invoice number rather than with a reference to a purchase order. That's the reason why we are going to, why we have a function for manual matching. And the first approver actually has the functionality to hit a button before he approves. Then he gets presented a list of potential PO candidates, which would be a candidate to match the invoice with. And then the person just select the appropriate PO and match it against it. It's also worth to mention that we have an M-to-N matching, so it is possible to match multiple POs to one invoice or vice versa, multiple invoices to one PO. And of course, ApprovalMax is calculating the outstanding balance on incurred liabilities by submitted POs, and you are always able to report on those outstanding liability. I hope that answers the question. If not, feel free to shoot me an email, and I would be happy to give you a call and discuss this further. So there's a very interesting question. So Steve is asking whether ApprovalMax can be used with the WorkflowMax PO system. It's actually a very good question, Steve. We have some challenges here, and the challenge is that ApprovalMax treats Xero as the system of records, and we are normally not integrating with any of the OCR tools or with WorkflowMax or any other tool. We are exchanging data which we need for delivering and doing our job. We are Xero as the system of record. And unfortunately, there are some technical gaps which are not resolved yet to make it happening that we could, for instance, run approvals on POs created in WorkflowMax. If you would be interested to investigate this further, my advice would be to send an email to support@approvalmax.com, and then we can actually share deeper insights. And I believe that Fraser may have some experience and can help to answer this question, as ApprovalMax is very popular in Australia too.
Yeah, so I have come across WorkflowMax, and the only thing I could think about is I know that when purchase orders are created, they go, as my understanding, as a draft into Xero. So I'm not sure if you can update the settings to go to awaiting approval. But the integration between ApprovalMax and Xero is awaiting approval. So anything that goes into awaiting approval will then go through an approval process in ApprovalMax. But nevertheless, if all the purchase orders were going into draft in Xero, you could simply just tick them all and go save and awaiting approval. So it'd just be one extra step in the process, but then it would start an approval process. So.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fraser. Yeah, and then we received a question which is not related to the product itself, but actually also a very interesting one, which I would like to answer. The question is, what country is the ApprovalMax team based in? I believe you already realized my strange German accent. I do not apologize for it, but I hope that my English is good enough to be understood. So saying that ApprovalMax is operating out of Germany. We are actually an UK limited and registered in the UK as the headquarters, but the main operations are conducted out of Germany. So both countries are still EU members, and we are sticking to the privacy and other relevant laws based on the European legislation. We are a truly international operating team. So we have staff members who are British, Scottish, we have staff members who are Russian, and we are operating on a worldwide basis, serving customers in all English-speaking geographies, including UK, Australia, New Zealand, and the US. I hope that answered the question. Are there any other questions you would like to ask today?
I guess, Helmut, sorry to interrupt. I guess we have a question in the chat from Edris, and the question reads, invoice coding, how do you get your construction invoice posted to a particular project, sub-project, not just materials? Not sure if it goes to Fraser or to you.
I believe Fraser can answer this question. So let me repeat the question again. It is about invoice coding and how you get your construction co-invoice posted to a particular project. So it means actually how you make sure that the supplier invoices are assigned and related to the right project, and you are not recording just the materials.
Sure. So in the example I had before, the coding is done in another solution for the project coding. So we use Xero as the accounting function, and we use the project coding. He actually uses Buildertrend. But nevertheless, to answer your question, it's quite simple. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Receipt Bank, but Receipt Bank integrates with Receipt Bank is what we use, and I'd highly recommend it. I think it's one of the best on the market. But Receipt Bank is the same as when you put an invoice manually into Xero, whether you're using Receipt Bank, another add-on, or manually into Xero. You select the chart of accounts, so you select the general ledger, code and account name, and then you can use Xero project tracking categories to add it to, if you're using Xero for project reporting as well. And what I love about ApprovalMax is that if you do use ApprovalMax and you do use tracking categories and account codes, you can leave the final decision with the clients. So, for example, when we have our clients who are not-for-profits, we generally try our best to allocate the expense to the correct funding and the correct tracking category in Xero. However, ApprovalMax doesn't only allow you to approve or reject bills, but it can also allow you to edit the project or edit the account before it's approved and goes into Xero. So for some instances where we've selected the wrong tracking category or the wrong chart of account, the client can do a quick final adjustment before it's approved and goes into Xero. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, thank you very much, Fraser. So let me encourage you to ask again if there's anything left. Please click the Q&A button, type your question, last call before we close the session. No questions. Okay, then I want to close today's webinar, and many thanks to you, Fraser, for this late time in Australia, staying with us and sharing your experience. Thank you very much. And also thank you to everyone who joined today's webinar. Let me remind you that we will share the recording, and you are welcome to share the recording with your colleagues or other people who may be interested in that topic. And I hope that it was helpful to give some best practice advice, some inspiration, some idea for your own work and how you want to organize your client interaction. And if there's any question left open, feel free to contact us. Many of you have my direct email address. I would be happy to receive your questions, answer those. And for general inquiries, please ask our staff at support@approvalmax.com, and we would be very glad to assist you and answer any question you may have retrospective to this webinar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Fraser, and thank you everyone who joined us. Yeah. Stay tuned. We will have so next month it's pretty much a monthly series that we are having, and so we will be very happy if you join us next time in January and further on with more to share with the Xero community and with the best practices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.